Ever wondered what it takes to plan a scandalous Roman orgy for senators and emperors, from dodging social disasters to curating decadent feasts? Join me for a wild day in the life of a Roman orgy planner, plus shocking historical tales. You won't believe, stick around for the chaos. Ancient Rome wasn't just marble columns and military might. It thrived on excess, where feasts became spectacles of power status and raw indulgence. Lavish banquets weren't mere meals, they were battlegrounds for influence, dripping with wine ambition and often scandalous nudity. Amid this chaos, one profession stood out as both absurd and essential: the orgy planner. This unsung maestro orchestrated every detail, from the perfect grape to the right entertainment, ensuring no guest, especially not a mother-in-law, disrupted the delicate balance of debauchery. Their role was a tightrope walk over social disaster, crafting nights of decadence that shaped reputations. Picture a world where every cushion, every sip, every whisper mattered. That's the stage we're stepping onto, tracing a day in their chaotic life, starting with the tense dawn of preparation. The first light of dawn hasn't even touched the horizon yet. Your eyes snap open, heavy with the weight of what's ahead. You're not just anyone stirring in the stillness of early morning. You're the planner of tonight's elite Roman orgy, and anxiety is already clawing at your mind. The sleeping mat beneath you is still warm, a fleeting comfort, as your brain races through a litany of potential disasters. 17 things could go wrong before you've even had a chance to eat, and each one feels like a personal failure waiting to unfold. Your tunic lies crumpled beside you, a silent testament to the restless night. But there's no time to dwell on that now. A faint rustle at the door interrupts the quiet, and your stomach tightens. Someone has slipped a scroll beneath it, and the crackle of parchment sounds like a warning bell in the dim room. With the grim determination of a soldier facing battle, you unroll it, already bracing for bad news. It's from your patron's wife, her sharp words leaping off the page like daggers. She's not forgotten the last event where the rose petals were yellow instead of red. A detail so small, yet so catastrophic, that guests whispered about it for weeks. Her reminder stings a pointed jab at your competence, and you haven't even touched your barley porridge to steady your nerves. Outside, Rome is just beginning to stir. The faint sounds of the city, awakening, drift through the air. Bakers are firing their ovens, and street vendors are setting up their stalls, but their mundane routines feel worlds away from the chaos brewing in your mind. You're not just planning a gathering, you're orchestrating a spectacle, where every detail, from the shade of a petal to the temperature of the wine, could make or break reputations, yours included. The pressure is a tangible weight on your chest, each breath a reminder of the stakes. Senators, artists, philosophers, and courtesans who despise each other will all be under your care tonight, their expectations as lofty as the Palatine Hill. And then there's the rumor, whispered in hushed tones by your informants, that someone from the imperial family might attend. No one has confirmed who it could be: a distant cousin, or, gods forbid, someone as unpredictable as Caligula himself. Either way, the blame will fall on you if a single peacock feather is out of place or a dish isn't prepared to perfection. The thought sends a shiver down your spine, not from the cool morning air, but from the sheer dread of what's to come. You can already hear the murmurs of discontent if a cushion isn't plush enough, or if the wine isn't poured with the right flourish. Every misstep will be catalogued, every flaw magnified in the unforgiving light of Roman high society. Rising from your mat, you shake off the lingering fog of sleep, though it clings to you like damp linen. There's no luxury of easing into the day. The mental juggling act has already begun. You picture flaming amphorae tumbling through your thoughts, each one representing a task that must be flawlessly executed. Staffing issues loom large. Runners were sent yesterday to secure flute girls, dancers, a harpist, and even a man who balances figs on his feet while walking on his hands. Not a single one has confirmed, and you suspect at least 2 are still drunk in the seedy alleys of the Subura. Then there's the food, a list of delicacies that must arrive fresh, or at least convincingly so. Oysters, honey-roasted dormice figs, dates and questionable meats from the eastern provinces. All must be perfect, or you'll be the talk of the forum for poisoning a senator with a bad shellfish. As you slip into your sandals, the day stretches before you like an endless battlefield. Each hour, a skirmish. You must win. The sun is barely creeping over the horizon, and already sweat prickles at your brow, soaking into your linen tunic. But there's no turning back. You are the maestro of this madness, and every detail, no matter how small, rests on your shoulders. The weight of it all is crushing, yet you stand straighter, steeling yourself for the chaos that awaits. Tonight's event must dazzle, and you'll ensure it does, even if it means battling through every hour with dread as your constant companion. With a deep breath, you unroll a fresh scroll, ready to face the next challenge that will shape this day of decadence. Navigating the chaos of a Roman orgy starts with a guest list that could ignite a civil war. As the sun creeps over the horizon, you're already hunched over a scroll deciphering names that carry more weight than a loaded amphora. Senators, artists, philosophers, and even a rumored imperial family member, possibly a distant cousin, or worse, Caligula himself, stare back at you in ink. The stakes couldn't be higher. One misplaced name, one overlooked rivalry, and tonight's feast becomes a battlefield. You're not just planning a party, you're orchestrating a delicate dance of power and prestige where a single misstep could tarnish reputations, including your own. First, there's the sheer unpredictability of who will actually show up. 2 courtesans who despise each other are confirmed, and their last encounter ended with a shattered jug. Then whispers of an imperial presence linger, no confirmation, just enough ambiguity to keep you on edge. If it's someone significant and their peacock isn't perfectly presented, the blame falls squarely on you. Every detail from seating to wine must be flawless, because in Rome, a slight is never just personal, it's political. You jot down notes with a trembling hand, already envisioning the fallout of a poorly placed couch. Beyond the guests, the logistics loom like a storm on the Tiber. Staffing is a nightmare. Runners were sent yesterday to secure flute girls, dancers, a harpist, and even a man who balances figs on his feet while walking on his hands. Not a single one has confirmed. You can almost picture them now, likely passed out in the Subura, drowning in cheap wine and bad decisions. Without entertainment, the night risks becoming a dull lecture, and Roman elites don't forgive boredom. You make a mental note to send another runner, hoping to salvage at least a few performers before the first guest arrives. Then there's the Fuda decadent spread that must dazzle as much as it satisfies. Oysters, honey-roasted dormice, figs, dates, olives, and exotic meats from the eastern provinces are on order, but nothing is guaranteed. Freshness is critical. One spoiled oyster could turn half the forum against you, with whispers of poisoning circling faster than a chariot race. You've heard the horror stories, a senator's reputation ruined over a bad batch of seafood. Every delivery must be inspected with the scrutiny of a general before battle, because in this arena, a culinary misstep is as deadly as a gladiator's blade. Even the smallest details, like cushions, carry disproportionate weight. Last event, a couch collapsed under a toga-clad magistrate, sparking not just laughter, but political repercussions that echoed for weeks. This time, the furniture must be sturdy enough to withstand whatever excesses unfold atop it, and you know exactly what those excesses entail. You double-check the order, picturing the chaos of bodies and wine, ensuring nothing gives way under pressure. A broken couch isn't just an inconvenience. It's a public humiliation for your patron, and by extension, for you. Sweat beads on your brow as the city awakens outside, indifferent to your mounting dread. The weight of potential disasters presses down unconfirmed entertainers, questionable food deliveries, and a guest list primed for scandal. Yet amidst this mental whirlwind, you grip your clipboard like a shield. Each problem is a puzzle to solve, each risk a challenge to mitigate. The day has barely begun, and already you're balancing on the edge of catastrophe, knowing that tonight's success hinges on your ability to foresee every possible failure. This early frenzy of planning isn't just about logistics. It's about survival in a world where excess masks ruthless calculation. As you brace for the hours ahead, one truth anchors you. Chaos is inevitable, but control is your craft. With every name checked and every order scrutinized, you're building a fragile fortress against disaster, preparing to face the madness with a steady hand and a racing heart. How you manage this storm will set the tone for everything that follows. Stepping into worn sandals at the break of dawn, the weight of the day already presses down like a heavy toga. As a Roman orgy planner, the mind becomes a battlefield before the sun even crests the horizon. Every detail of tonight's elite gathering swirls in chaotic patterns. Flute girls, yet to confirm oysters that must arrive fresh, couches that need to withstand, well, everything. It's not just a party. It's a high-stakes performance where one misstep could turn decadence into disaster. The scroll from the patron's wife, still stinging with criticism over last event's yellow rose petals, lingers as a reminder that perfection is the only option. There's no room for error when senators, artists, and whispered imperial guests are on the list. Mental juggling begins with the first breath of morning air. Staffing looms as the initial hurdle runners were sent to secure entertainers, but the silence from the Sabura district gnaws at already frayed nerves. Are the dancers lost in wine-soaked revelry? Is the man who balances figs on his feet even awake? Each unchecked name on the list is a potential crack in the evening's foundation. Then there's the food. A parade of decadence that must dazzle. Honey-roasted dormice figs from Carthage and peacock, so exquisite it's almost a sin to eat. But if even one dish arrives, spoiled, the forum will buzz with tales of poison, not pleasure. The mind races to contingency plans, extra cushions for unexpected collapses, spare amphorae of Falernian wine to appease late arriving egos. Amid this mental storm, a crucial truth anchors the chaos. This role, though maddening, is a craft mastered through countless sleepless dawns. A maestro of madness, that's the title earned through every averted crisis. Every guest who left unaware of the near disasters behind their goblet of wine. Choreographing chaos isn't just a job. It's an art form, one that demands the mind to be both fortress and forum, holding every detail while debating every outcome. A deep breath steadies the resolve. The cushions will be fluffed to perfection. The wine will flow as smoothly as a Tiber breeze, and no guest will glimpse the dread that fueled this preparation. Not yet, at least. The day is still young, and screaming into the void remains a distant temptation. This internal rehearsal isn't a mere worry, it's the scaffolding of success. Visualizing each task from greeting Lucius Calpurnius Piso to ensuring no garum taints the bread builds a mental map stronger than any wax tablet. Every potential scandal, like a senator's sharp tongue clashing with a poet's fragile ego, is anticipated and countered in thought before it can unfold in reality. This mental preparation transforms raw stress into structured strategy, turning a planner into a prophet of the party's flow. It's about seeing the unseen, knowing a courtesan's glance could ignite a feud, or a misplaced amphora could topple a truce. Master it lies in predicting the unpredictable. The sandals are tied. Now, the tunic smoothed, but the mind doesn't rest. It can't. Not when Rome's elite expect a night of effortless excess, blind to the sweat and scheming that make it so. This mental groundwork is the invisible thread weaving through every decision, every step toward the triclinium. It's the silent promise that chaos will be tamed, even if just for one night. And as the first scroll of the updated guest list unrolls, revealing names that spell either triumph or terror, the mind sharpens further. Those names aren't just ink. They're a social labyrinth, a delicate balance of power and passion waiting to be navigated. But that's a challenge for the next hour when the real dance of diplomacy begins. Balancing a Roman orgy's guest list is like juggling knives over a pit of fears. One wrong move and disaster strikes. As the planner, I'm staring at a scroll that's less a list of names and more a blueprint for chaos. Every name carries weight, every pairing a potential explosion. Take Lucius Calpurnius Piso, for instance. He's a fixture at every elite gathering, always demanding the center couch, ideally next to someone else's wife. His presence alone is a challenge, but the real problem is that his own wife Aurelia has decided to attend, uninvited, of course. But when has that ever stopped her? I jot a sharp note. Separate couches, separate wine sources, and absolutely no harp solos while they're both in the room. Last time she hurled a garum jug across the hall, and I'm not cleaning up that mess again. Then there's Senator Petronius Arbiter, a man whose wit cuts deeper than any gladius. His tongue is a weapon often wielded with devastating effect, especially when it comes to poetry. I recall his brutal critique of Junius Blockus, calling his verses a slow death written in meter. Seating these two near each other would be like lighting a fuse in a room full of lamp oil. I mark their placements on opposite ends of the triclinium, hoping distance will dull the senator's barbs. But the list doesn't stop throwing curveballs. Halfway down, I spot an entry that's maddeningly vague, Decianus, and two guests unnamed. Who are they, respected clients, rogue gladiators? For all I know, it could be a pair of lions in togas. I scribble, flexible seating West End, and brace for the unknown. This isn't just a roster of attendees. It's a map of Roman tension woven with threads of politics, lust, and ancient grudges. Every name represents a potential clash. Every placement, a delicate negotiation. The guest list dictates the mood of the night, where alliances might form or shatter over a shared bowl of wine. Imagine the whispers if someone important is overlooked. It was intentional, they'll hiss. A public slight. I'll never lend him my bath slaves again. The pressure is immense. One misstep, and I'm not just planning a party, I'm sparking a feud that could echo through the forum for months. I rolled up the scroll with a sigh, only to unroll a fresh one for notes and warnings. Arrows point to dangerous pairings. Circles highlight volatile personalities. This isn't mere organization. It's a diplomatic simulation laced with aphrodisiacs and roasted dormice. I've done this before, danced this treacherous dance, and I'll do it again. But the memory of last spring lingers, a near stabbing over couch placement that turned silk cushions into a battlefield. I can't let history repeat itself. Every detail must be accounted for, every risk mitigated, because when the wine starts flowing, control slips through my fingers like sand. The stakes are higher than just avoiding scandal. This list shapes the evening's narrative, determining whether the event is remembered as a triumph of decadence or a cautionary tale of disaster. Senators will judge my patron's influence by who reclines where. Artists will gossip about slights and snubs. And if that rumored imperial family member does show, every eye will be on their placement, scrutinizing for hidden meanings. I trace the names again, double-checking my strategy. The weight of Rome's social hierarchy rests on these decisions, and I'm the one who must bear it. Yet, even with all this planning, I know unpredictability looms. Someone will arrive unannounced, demanding a seat of honor. Others will ignore my careful arrangements, shifting places to make bold statements or settle scores. I've seen it before, guests turning a meticulously crafted evening into a game of power and spite. That's why I'm already sketching contingencies, leaving a few cushions empty for last-minute flexibility. With the list as stable as it can be, I turn my mind to the next hurdle. How do I manage the wild cards who defy even the best-laid plan? Navigating the guest list for a Roman orgy isn't just about names on a scroll. It's about deciphering the hidden chaos waiting to erupt. One entry alone can send a shiver down your spine, like the vague note of Decianus and two guests unnamed. The ambiguity stings like a slap from a senator's toga. Who are these mystery attendees? Respected clients with impeccable manners, rough gladiators fresh from the arena, reeking of sweat and blood, or, gods forbid, some eccentric bringing a giraffe in a tunic as a jest. You can't predict it. And that's the problem. Every unconfirmed name is a potential disaster, a spark that could ignite a social inferno before the first amphora of Falernian is even uncorked. Your mind races with worst-case scenarios, insults, flung alliances, shattered, or worse, someone important feeling snubbed by their placement. Scribbling flexible seating West End on the parchment feels like a desperate prayer to Jupiter rather than a plan. It's your only defense against the unknown, a way to carve out space for whatever or whoever shows up unannounced. The west end of the triclinium becomes your buffer zone, a corner where you can shuffle bodies without drawing too much attention, hoping no one notices the last-minute adjustments. But it's not just about physical space. It's about mental preparation. You brace yourself for the inevitable whispers of, was this intentional? Or, how dare they seat me here? If an unnamed guest turns out to be a high-ranking noble with a grudge, every vague entry is a gamble, and you're betting on your ability to adapt on the fly. The unpredictability doesn't stop with mystery guests. Even known attendees carry their own risks when their moods or motives are unclear. A courtesan with a penchant for drama might arrive with a rival in tow, their smiles sharp as daggers. Or a philosopher, usually harmless, could decide tonight's the night to debate politics with a volatile magistrate. You've seen it before, small sparks of tension flaring into full-blown scandals over a single misplaced word or glance. So you plan for the unexpected, mentally mapping out escape routes for conversations gone wrong. If a feud brews, you'll have a dancer glide in to distract, or a server offer a tray of honey dormice as a peace offering. It's not elegant, but it works. Flexibility becomes your mantra, As you stare at the scroll ink smudging under your sweaty palm, you leave gaps in the seating chart, empty cushions that serve as silent promises of last-minute solutions. These aren't just placeholders, they're lifelines. If an uninvited guest storms in claiming insult, you've got a spot ready to soothe their ego. If a pair of unnamed companions turn out to be troublemakers, you can isolate them far from the central couches where the elite recline. It's a delicate dance, balancing status with safety, ensuring no one feels slighted while keeping potential chaos at bay. You mutter to yourself, plausible deniability. Knowing these gaps might save you from a diplomatic nightmare. The weight of these uncertainties presses heavier as the day wears on. Each vague name or unconfirmed arrival is a reminder of how little control you truly have. You've orchestrated feasts where gladiators and poets clashed over a mere jest, where uninvited guests turned a celebration into a battlefield of whispers and glares. The memory of a garum jug hurled across the room by an offended wife still haunts you. So you double-check your notes, ensuring every possible contingency has at least a shadow of a solution. It's exhausting, but necessary. The guests will never see the sweat on your brow or the frantic calculations behind your calm nod. Yet even with all this preparation, a nagging doubt lingers. What if flexibility isn't enough? What if the unnamed guests bring a vendetta you can't seat away? You push the thought aside, focusing on the immediate task of refining your strategy. The West End will hold. The cushions will stay empty until needed, and your quick thinking will have to bridge any gaps. This delicate balance of foresight and adaptability sets the stage for managing deeper conflicts, where seating isn't just about space, but about power and politics waiting to unravel. Crafting a seating chart for a Roman orgy isn't just logistics. It's a high-stakes game of diplomacy, where one wrong move could ignite a scandal or worse. Every name on this scroll represents a potential clash of politics, lust, or long-held grudges, and it's my job to keep the peace while ensuring the decadence flows uninterrupted. This isn't about comfort. It's about control, about managing a social battlefield where silk-covered couches are the trenches and wine is the weapon of choice. I unroll a fresh parchment stylus in hand, drawing arrows and circling names with warnings, knowing full well that a single misstep could unravel everything before the first amphora is even opened. The guest list is a map of tension, each placement a calculated risk. Start with Lucius Calpurnius Piso, a man who attends every event and demands the center couch, often next to someone else's wife. His own wife, Aurelia, is coming uninvited, as she always does. I mark them for separate couches, far apart, with distinct wine sources to avoid any garum jug throwing repeats from last time. Then there's Senator Petronius Arbiter, whose sharp tongue could cut through marble. His biting critique of Junius Blockus's poetry as a slow death in meter still stings, so I position them at opposite ends of the triclinium, buffered by neutral guests who can absorb the inevitable barbs. Navigating personal entanglements adds another layer of complexity. Lovers must be near enough to flirt, but not so close as to provoke public outrage unless they're ex-lovers, in which case I wedge a dull but charming guest between them, someone who can drone on about grain tariffs until tempers cool. Courtesans are placed strategically near the lonely or recently divorced. Their presence, a subtle distraction while I reserve a spot on the west side for two of them, just to give Aurelia something trivial to grumble about instead of the wine's temperature. Every decision is a balancing act, a way to steer the evening away from chaos. Flexibility is my only defense against the unexpected. Someone will arrive unannounced, claiming insult, if not given a prime spot. Others will switch seats to make a statement, or spill wine and demand a reshuffle. I leave a few cushions empty, a silent strategy for last-minute adjustments, a buffer for plausible deniability. These gaps are my safety net, a way to handle the poet who sulks if ignored, or the senator who storms in late. I've seen it all before, and I'm prepared to adapt, even if it means redrawing this chart mid-feast. Past disasters loom large as I finalize the plan. Last spring, a misplaced couch led to a stabbing over perceived slights, a vivid reminder of how quickly luxury can turn lethal. I double-check every arrow, every warning, ensuring no rivalries are seated within striking distance. This isn't just a party. It's a live simulation of diplomacy laced with aphrodisiacs and roasted dormice. The stakes couldn't be higher because in Rome, a slight at a feast can echo through the forum for months, ruining reputations or sparking vendettas that outlast the wine stains. I roll up the scroll, handing it to a trusted slave. With a stern command, place the name tags in wax and guard them with your life. Of course, someone will tamper with them, but at least I've laid the groundwork. The triclinium will be a chessboard, each guest a piece, to be maneuvered with precision. If all goes well, they'll be too distracted by the excess to notice the careful orchestration behind it. But success hinges on foresight, on anticipating every possible fracture point in this delicate social web. While this intricate dance of seating and strategy sets the stage, the next challenge looms just as large. Curating a menu for such an event demands equal precision, ensuring every dish and drink dazzles the senses while avoiding culinary catastrophes that could rival the interpersonal ones I've just navigated. Opulence must reign supreme, and every detail must align to keep the night unforgettable for all the right reasons. Crafting a menu for a Roman orgy isn't about mere sustenance. It's about staging a spectacle of excess that could make even the gods pause their divine squabbles. Every choice, from the wine to the tiniest morsel, must scream opulence, power, and decadence. The pressure is immense. One wrong dish, and whispers of failure could echo through the forum for weeks. So the selection begins with precision and a touch of calculated madness. Wine, the lifeblood of any Roman feast, tops the list. Not just any vintage will do. It has to be Falernian, aged to perfection with a price tag that could make a senator wince. 3 amphorae are ordered for the elite, ensuring their goblets never run dry. For flair, 2 amphorae of Cuban wine are added more for show than taste, a subtle brag of far-reaching trade connections. And for those unfortunate latecomers who stumble in after the revelry peaks, a single amphora of vinegar awaits a silent jab at their tardiness. Seafood is next, and nothing less than the finest will suffice. Oysters from Baiae are demanded shipped alive, or at least convincingly fresh. A stern note goes to the vendor recalling last event's debacle when half the batch arrived dead, prompting one superstitious guest to declare it an ill omen. The embarrassment still stings, and such a misstep cannot be repeated. These oysters must glisten their briny essence, a testament to the sea's bounty, served to impress even the most jaded patrician palate. Then come the delicacies that define Roman excess honey-roasted dormice, a dish as bizarre as it is coveted. 50 are requested, rolled in poppy seeds and dripping with honey. Their plump little bodies a strange mix of sweet and savory. The reality is grim. Only 35 will likely arrive, and half might still twitch on the platter. Yet this oddity is a staple, a conversation starter for guests reclining on silk cushions, marveling at the sheer audacity of such fare. The centerpiece of the feast must dazzle, and roasted peacock fits the bill. It's not just cooked, it's a performance. The bird is prepared whole, its iridescent feathers meticulously reapplied post-roasting for dramatic effect. Taste-wise, sits closer to shoe leather than delicacy, but that's irrelevant. It's served so guests can boast they've dined on something that once strutted like royalty, a symbol of wealth over flavor. Alongside stuffed sow's udder joins the lineup an exotic touch from distant provinces, paired with dates from Judea and figs from Carthage, each bite a nod to the empire's vast reach. Cheese wrapped in vine leaves adds a rustic yet refined element, a quiet balance to the ostentatious meats, but every detail carries risk, and past mistakes loom large. A strict reminder is scrawled to the staff, no garum accidents near the bread. This time, the memory of anchovy-scented rolls from the last feast still haunts. It nearly sparked a riot among guests, offended by the pungent mix. Such a blunder could turn a night of decadence into a public scandal, and no planner worth their salt can afford that. The list, when complete, resembles a military requisition, more than a menu, its cost rivaling a small villa outside Ostia. Yet this is Rome. Gluttony isn't a vice, it's a virtue. Opulence isn't just expected, it's demanded. The patron's reputation hinges on guests being so stunned by luxury that they overlook a sour note from a flute or a spilled goblet on the marble. Every item is handed to a runner with explicit orders, no substitutions, no excuses. If the sugared grapes are forgotten, again, the consequences will be dire, perhaps a jest about feeding the culprit to the flamingos, but the tone is sharp enough to drive the point home. As the scroll is dispatched, a silent prayer goes to Mercury, god of commerce and swift delivery, to ensure everything arrives as planned. The weight of this task is immense, but it's only the beginning. With the savory, secured thoughts, turn to the sweet to desserts that must not only satisfy, but astonish, setting the stage for visual wonders that will leave guests speechless. Crafting the perfect Roman orgy isn't just about the savory indulgences. It's about ending on a note so sweet and visually stunning that guests forget their own names. Desserts at these feasts are not mere afterthoughts. They're the crescendo of decadence, designed to linger in memory long after the last bite. Candied nuts, glistening with honeyed glaze, offer a satisfying crunch, their sweetness, a sharp contrast to the heavy richness of earlier courses. Almond cakes dusted with fine sugar melt delicately on the tongue, each piece a small luxury meant to impress even the most jaded senator. But the true masterpiece is the centerpiece, a colossal cake sculpted to mimic the grand Colosseum itself, an edible marvel that commands attention. Hidden within its sugary walls are live songbirds, ready to burst forth in a flutter of wings when the cake is sliced open. It's not just dessert, it's theater, a spectacle that fuses taste with awe, ensuring gasps and whispers ripple through the triclinium. The visual impact of this dessert isn't accidental. Every detail is calculated to elevate the experience beyond mere eating into a realm of pure astonishment. Imagine the flickering lamplight catching the intricate icing of the Colosseum's arches, the crowd leaning forward as the first cut releases a chorus of chirps and a flurry of feathers. This is Roman excess at its finest, where even a sweet treat becomes a statement of power and creativity. But such grandeur demands precision. A single misstep, like a collapsed structure or birds escaping too soon, could turn awe into laughter, and not the kind you want. So every layer is checked, every bird accounted for, because in this game of opulence, failure isn't an option. Beyond the sweets, there's another critical rule to uphold, born from hard-learned lessons of past feasts. Garum, that pungent fermented fish sauce beloved by Romans, must be kept far from the bread. It's a disaster waiting to happen, as one unfortunate event nearly proved. Picture this: a tray of freshly baked rolls, warm and inviting, accidentally doused with the briny, overpowering stench of garum. The result was chaos, guests recoiling, hands waving in disgust, and a near riot breaking out over ruined appetites. The memory of anchovy-scented loaves sparking outrage still haunts a cautionary tale whispered among planners. So now strict orders are given to separate the two at all costs. Servers are drilled, containers are labeled, and vigilance is paramount. No one wants to be the planner, remembered for a garum-soaked scandal. This meticulous attention to detail extends to every element of the dessert course. The candied nuts aren't just tossed onto a platter. They're arranged in gleaming piles, catching the eye like scattered jewels. Almond cakes are portioned to ensure every guest feels personally indulged, a small but deliberate touch of exclusivity. And the Colosseum cake. Its creation is a logistical nightmare, requiring bakers to work through the night, coordinating with handlers to secure the birds at the precise moment of assembly. The risk of a bird escaping early or a wing getting caught in the frosting is ever present. But the reward, a moment of pure, unscripted wonder, makes it worth the gamble. These spectacles are more than indulgence. They're a planner's signature as a way to etch the night into the annals of Roman gossip. A successful dessert course can turn a good feast into a legendary one, where tales of songbirds and sugar amphitheaters are recounted for months. It's a high-stakes game, balancing taste with visual flair, ensuring that every guest leaves not just full, but utterly dazzled. And as the last crumbs are swept away, the stage is set for the next layer of luxury. How does one elevate an evening already steeped in excess? The answer lies in the subtle art of scent, where the air itself becomes a canvas for extravagance. Crafting the perfect ambiance for a Roman orgy goes beyond mere food and wine. It demands an assault on every sense, especially the sense of smell. Perfume in ancient Rome isn't just a luxury. It's a declaration of power and decadence. The air itself must drip with opulence, wrapping guests in a cloud of wealth and temptation as they step into the villa. Myrrh from Arabia, rose oil from the finest gardens, and saffron water, so rare it costs more than a slave's yearly wage. These are the tools of my trade today. The budget for scents alone could buy a small estate outside Ostia, but in Rome, extravagance isn't a choice. It's a mandate. Every whiff must scream status, ensuring guests are too intoxicated by the aroma to notice a flat note from the harpist or a spilled goblet on the marble. Sourcing these fragrances is a logistical nightmare. Myrrh, with its deep, resinous warmth, must be imported through treacherous trade routes, often arriving late or worse, diluted by dishonest merchants. I've sent a runner with strict orders, no substitutions, no excuses. Rose oil extracted from thousands of petals requires a supplier I can trust not to mix in cheaper essences. Last time a guest, some senator's wife with a nose like a bloodhound, detected a hint of lavender filler and spent the evening loudly questioning my competence. Saffron water, the crowning jewel, is so expensive I've hidden the cost from my patron, burying it in the ledger under miscellaneous indulgences. A single vial could bankrupt a lesser household, but its golden spicy allure is non-negotiable for an event of this caliber. The strategy for deploying these scents is as critical as seating rival senators. The atrium where guests first enter will be bathed in a sharp, clean burst of citrus and cedarwood, signaling freshness and setting an inviting tone. It's a subtle promise of the excess to come. Moving into the triclinium, the main dining space, the air shifts to heavier notes, myrrh and frankincense with a whisper of musk. This blend is deliberate. It's meant to linger, to suggest that anything might happen under its spell, and that's perfectly acceptable. For the private garden alcoves where whispered deals and wandering hands find their stage, I've chosen a seductive mix of rose cinnamon and a touch of spikenard. It's potent enough to make hearts race, but I warned the staff moderation is key. One overzealous pour last month left a magistrate dizzy, blaming the scent for his sudden indisposition. Even the latrines, often overlooked, demand attention. Discreetly scenting them with a light floral mist ensures no guest recoils from a necessary visit. It's a small detail, but in Rome, comfort is everything. Neglect it, and whispers of my failure will spread faster than garum on bread. I've instructed an attendant to keep vials of warmed perfumed oils ready for guests' hands and feet. Cold oil is for barbarians. Warm oil, gently massaged, speaks of care and seduction under the glow of oil lamps. One dancer, always pushing boundaries, begged for a personal scent, something hypnotic, she said. I handed her a blend so intense it once sparked a minor frenzy at a Saturnalia feast. Her sly smile told me she'd wield it like a weapon tonight, and I can only hope the chaos stays manageable. Walking through the halls, I test the air, trailing my nose, like a hunter tracking prey. The atmosphere is blooming, warm, spiced, and utterly opulent. A perfumed breeze wafts through the triclinium, carrying secrets in its wake. It's exactly as it should be, indulgence you can inhale. The house is nearly ready to embrace its guests, every corner scented, every breath a reminder of excess. But as I finalize this sensory masterpiece, I know the real test lies ahead. A flawless aroma can't mask a logistical disaster, and the staff must be primed to execute every detail. Their coordination from serving wine to fanning guests will make or break this illusion of effortless decadence. Every detail in a Roman orgy must scream decadence, and the venue is where that impression begins. As the planner of tonight's elite gathering, the weight of perfection falls squarely on your shoulders. The banquet hall's mosaic tiles, especially the intricate depiction of Bacchus riding a panther, demand a flawless shine. You kneel to remove a stray grape stem lodged in the grout from last week's event, ensuring no trace of past revelry mars this space. Standards aren't just high, they're non-negotiable. A single imperfection could spark whispers among guests, and in Rome, whispers turn to scandals faster than wine pours. The latrines, often overlooked, are a silent testament to your meticulous care. They've been scrubbed, perfumed with subtle hints of myrrh, and stocked with fresh sponges on sticks. A bowl of lemon vinegar sits ready to cleanse, while a candle flickers near the doorway, not for light, but for dignity. You know, guests will stumble here after their fifth goblet, and even in their most undignified moments, they must feel the embrace of luxury. Out in the courtyard, the fountain basins catch your eye. Their gentle trickle is inviting but dangerous. Memories of a general's wife nearly drowning in the koi pond last time linger. You've since removed the fish, though sadly not the wife. Safety now trumps aesthetics. Passing through the perfume room, the air thickens with opulence. Jars of rose, cinnamon, and myrrh line the shelves like treasures in an apothecary of indulgence. You test a drop on your wrist, and it unfurls like a love letter to Venus herself. Perfection. Every scent must weave into the evening's tapestry, enhancing the mood without overpowering. A misstep here could turn seduction into suffocation. And you've seen senators blame a nosebleed on overly zealous fragrance. Precision is your ally. Next, the quiet hallway dubbed the retreat comes under scrutiny. It's not openly named for its purpose, but everyone understands. A curtain shields a simple chair and a bronze basin with a polite slave stationed nearby, fan in hand. This space too must gleam, clean, scented, and luxurious. It ensures that no matter how indulgent the night becomes, no guest leaves feeling undignified. If excess demands a discreet pause, they'll find solace surrounded by polished marble and tasteful murals of satyrs. That's your unspoken promise. Every corner of this villa must absorb the consequences of excess with style. You stride through the atrium, noting the placement of cushions, each fluffed to withstand whatever unfolds upon them. The memory of a divan collapsing under a toga-clad magistrate still stings. The political fallout was messier than spilled wine. This time you've tested their strength yourself. They'll hold. The lighting, too, is deliberate oil lamps cast a golden glow across marble, whispering wealth to every arriving guest. You adjust a curtain for symmetry, knowing decadence must appear effortless, even if it's taken endless hours and frayed nerves to achieve. Standing in the triclinium, the heart of tonight's chaos, you envision the revelry. Tables are low recliners angled for comfort and intrigue. Each surface reflects hours of preparation, hiding stains from past disasters beneath strategic drapes. You pause, inhaling the faint citrus and cedarwood already lingering in the air. It's a sharp, fresh note, a prelude to the heavier scents of myrrh and musk that will dominate later. This space isn't just a room, it's a stage, and you're the unseen director. Every tile, every scent, every shadow must play its part. Mid-morning sun filters through, and a fleeting sense of control settles over you. But the day is young, and chaos looms. With the venue polished to perfection, the next challenge beckons, aligning the human engine behind this spectacle. The staff awaits, and their readiness will make or break the night. Coordinating an elite Roman orgy isn't a solo act. It demands a small army of dedicated hands, and mid-morning, in the echoing atrium of the villa, I gather my team of 23. Each face reflects a mix of resignation and tension, from household slaves to paid performers. They didn't wake up dreaming of enabling another noble's excess, but here we are. Their roles are critical to transforming chaos into seamless decadence, and I must ensure every detail is understood. Precision now prevents disaster later. First, I address the cupbearers, assigning them specific zones: central triclinium for the elite periphery lounge for lesser guests, and west garden for latecomers. I stress a vital rule: dilute the strong Falernian wine unless explicitly instructed otherwise. Some guests overestimate their tolerance. A full-strength pour could turn a senator into a sobbing poet by the second course. Their nods confirm they grasp the stakes. Attention shifts to the fan-bearers whose subtle art can define a guest's comfort. A breeze too forceful might extinguish a candle or reveal an indiscretion under a toga. Too weak and a silk cushion becomes a sweat-soaked ruin. I emphasize timing and restraint. Neither extreme is acceptable. Their focused expressions tell me they're ready to wield their fans like weapons of precision. Fruit attendants, an oddly specific but essential role, receive their marching orders next. Trays must be refreshed constantly, grapes peeled only on request, and any shriveled fruit discreetly removed before it resembles a raisin. A single withered fig could spark a noble's complaint, and I'm not risking that. They murmur agreement, already eyeing the fruit baskets with vigilance. Then there's the musicians already squabbling over tempo before the briefing's even done. I separate the flute girl from the lyre player, recalling last time's awkward duet that had guests offering marriage advice mid-feast. Their bickering stops under my glare, and I lay down the law: no deviations, no drama. We're not repeating past embarrassments. The dancers, dripping with oil and eyeliner, lounge against a pillar, feigning disinterest. I ignore their theatrics and run through their cues with military clarity. Improvisation is forbidden. We're not reliving the Bacchic fire incident that nearly torched a tapestry. Their smirks fade as they realize I'm serious, and a reluctant nod seals their compliance. My gaze falls on the youngest slave, a boy no older than 10, tasked with collecting discarded sandals. Our eyes meet, and a silent pact forms with a single nod. He won't fail me, not tonight. It's a small but crucial trust in this web of responsibilities. Finally, I deliver the speech that binds us all. Tonight, you are invisible unless summoned, silent unless spoken to. You embody grace, rhythm, and elegance. Or I swear by Jupiter, sponge duty in the latrines awaits until Saturnalia. A heavy pause hangs in the air, followed by a collective nod. They understand the gravity failure isn't an option. I exhale, the weight of the briefing settling. This human engine behind Roman debauchery is oiled, powdered, and aligned, at least for now. Every role from cupbearer to sandal collector interlocks to create an illusion of effortless excess. The staff disperses to their posts, and I linger a moment in the atrium, knowing preparation is only half the battle. The real test looms as guests arrive, and with it the inevitable cracks in even the best laid plans. While we've polished every detail from mosaic tiles to perfumed latrines, a nagging unease persists. What happens when the first crisis strikes, like a missing musician or a dancer's untimely stumble? The foundation is set, but the unpredictability of tonight's revelry waits just beyond the horizon, ready to test every instruction I've given. Chaos strikes with the force of a Roman chariot when the musicians fail to show up. As an orgy planner, you've meticulously arranged for a flute girl, 2 cithara players, and a backup bolos duo to ensure the event hums with melody. Yet, here you stand in the atrium, staring at an empty space where music should be, knowing silence at a Roman feast is nothing short of a public disgrace. Without hesitation, you dispatch your most reliable runner to the Subura district, Rome's underbelly, of noise and vice with a sharp command. Find them alive, conscious, and dressed. The reasons for their absence are irrelevant. Whether they're passed out drunk or lost in last night's Saturnalia rehearsal time is your enemy. The ripple effect hits hard. Dancers, already oiled and poised, grumble that without music their rehearsals are pointless. Poets, sensing an opportunity, gleefully assume they'll get more stage time, but you shut that down instantly. No one needs to hear Gaius drone on about his mother's third marriage while guests are nibbling on sugared dormice. Your mind races through contingency plans, each more desperate than the last. The house cook knows a couple of tunes on a cracked reed pipe, hardly ideal, but functional. A nearby slave has a passable singing voice, provided he stays off the wine. As a last resort, you picture yourself humming in rhythm while someone shakes a jar of lentils. You pray to Bacchus it doesn't come to that. Relief washes over you like a cool breeze when the musicians finally stagger in looking as disheveled as if they've just survived a gladiator bout. They're fashionably late, vaguely apologetic and reeking of spikenard and bad choices. One flute girl is missing a sandal, another bears the haunted look of someone scorned by multiple senators. Still they're here, and that's what matters. You waste no time assigning their stations with military precision. One to the atrium for a welcoming air, one near the main dining hall for the feast's heart, and one in the garden for subtle ambiance. Your instructions are crystal clear. No dramatic tempo shifts, no dreary dirges, and absolutely no impromptu solos unless someone is literally dying. They nod half-heartedly, but you're not convinced. Your gaze locks on the cithara player who tunes his instrument with a slow, almost romantic tenderness that screams trouble. You've seen that look before an improvised love ballad, waiting to erupt and ruin the mood. Swiftly you make a mental note to station him near the door for easy removal if needed. Every detail counts in this delicate balance of decadence and control. Music isn't just background noise at a Roman orgy. It's the soul that keeps the chaos from unraveling completely. A wrong note could sour a senator's mood. A misplaced melody could spark an argument, and you're determined to keep this performance on track. Each crisis averted feels like a small triumph, but you know better than to relax. The musicians are in place, begrudgingly following orders, yet the air still crackles with potential mishaps. You've dodged silence for now, but the night is young, and Roman guests are as unpredictable as a storm on the Tiber. Every strum, every note must align with the evening's rhythm, or you'll be the one answering for it come dawn. With the entertainment secured, albeit precariously, the stage is set to shift focus to an equally treacherous battlefield seating arrangements and the culinary chaos brewing in the kitchen, where status rivalries and roasted peacocks collide with explosive potential. Seating at a Roman orgy isn't just about finding a spot on a couch. It's a battlefield of status rivalries and unspoken tensions that could unravel a marble villa in a single night. In the triclinium, the classic three-couch setup designed for 9 comfort shrinks to 7 if someone's pet leopard isn't tagging along. Every placement is a calculated move, a delicate dance of power and diplomacy, and as the planner, you're the general sketching out this siege on a wax tablet, muttering strategies under your breath. The center couch holds the highest honor, the summus locus reserved for the guest of greatest rank. But here's the snag-too-tighten Senator Piso and Governor Crispus both claim that spot with the weight of birthright marriage ties and sheer audacity. Choosing who reclines there isn't just a decision, it's a declaration. Place Piso in the center, and Crispus might retaliate with a subtle jab over the wine. Seat Crispus instead, and Piso's glare could sour the entire feast. You weigh the risk, knowing the wrong choice might mean serving mildly watered-down wine to the slighted party as a quiet apology. Beyond rank personal entanglements complicate every line on your chart. Lovers must be near enough to exchange glances, but not so close as to ignite whispers unless they're ex-lovers, in which case a full bowl of olives and a dull but charming buffer between them are non-negotiable. Take Aurelia, for instance, who always finds a way to attend uninvited. Positioning her away from her husband, Lucius Calpurnius Piso, is critical, but so is giving her a view of the courtesans on the west side. It'll distract her complaints from the wine's temperature to something trivial, keeping the peace for at least an hour. Then come the seat fillers, the unsung heroes of social harmony. A wealthy equestrian blissfully oblivious to poetry gets placed next to a dramatic bard. The equestrian won't grasp a single metaphor, while the poet basks in the undivided attention, a perfect symbiotic distraction. Courtesans, meanwhile, are strategically scattered near the lonely, the wealthy, or the recently divorced. Their presence a calculated spark to keep conversations lively without tipping into chaos. Every name on this list carries a purpose. Every couch a potential crisis. Unpredictability looms as the ultimate enemy. Someone will arrive unannounced demanding a prime spot. Another will switch seats mid-feast to make a bold statement. A spilled goblet of Falernian could trigger a full reshuffling of guests, each insisting on a better view or a softer cushion. To counter this, you leave a few empty spots, plausible deniability, last-minute flexibility, and a sulking corner for the poet if his verses flop. It's not just a seating chart, it's a living map of Roman tension where her politics, lust, and vendettas recline together on silk-covered couches, sipping from the same communal bowl. As you finalize the plan, rolling up the scroll, you can't help but admire your work, like a sculptor eyeing a fresh marble statue, fully aware someone's bound to swing a hammer before the night's out. You hand it off to a trusted attendant with a stern command, place name tags in wax, and by Jupiter, don't let anyone tamper with them. Of course they will. Someone always does, driven by spite or a drunken whim, but you've made the effort, etched your strategy into this fragile order. This fragile order, however, is only the beginning of the evening's orchestration. Beneath the surface of these carefully arranged couches, another layer of preparation simmers with equal intensity. The kitchen just beyond the triclinium's perfumed air hums with a different kind of chaos, one that could make or break the feast before the first guest even reclines. Every dish, every amphora of wine holds as much potential for disaster or triumph as the seating itself, waiting to unfold in a storm of flavors and mishaps. Chaos reigns supreme in the heart of this Roman villa as the kitchen transforms into a battlefield of culinary excess. By mid-afternoon, every corner hums with frantic energy, a symphony of clattering pots, shouted orders, and the sharp scent of roasting meats. The head cook, a grizzled former naval chef now ruling this domestic domain, barks commands with the ferocity of a warlord. His latest target, a trembling assistant struggling with the precise honey-to-poppy seed ratio for roasted dormice. The threat to toss someone into the Tiber, if it's wrong, hangs in the air, a sign that everything is surprisingly on track for tonight's orgy. The centerpiece of this edible spectacle is a whole roasted peacock, its feathers meticulously reapplied for dramatic flair. It's a dish more for bragging rights than taste, destined to be chewed by wealthy guests who will boast about devouring something that once strutted with arrogance. Nearby, a pig stuffed with live birds awaits its moment. Yes, it's as bizarre as it sounds. Roast the pig, slice it open at the table, and doves burst forth in a display that's equal parts impressive and unsettling. The kitchen staff brace for the gasps and perhaps the trauma this will inspire. Platters overflow with figs, dates, and honey cakes lining counters like treasures in a market stall. A pastry shaped like the Colosseum is being glazed with care, though one slave's sneaky nibble earns him a swift reassignment to grape-feeding duty. In a far corner, a vat of garum, that infamous Roman fish sauce of fermented anchovies, bubbles with a stench so potent it could wake the dead. A stern reminder echoes through the haze, keep it far from the bread. Last month's garum-soaked loaf sparked a feud between magistrates that lasted 5 days, and no one wants a repeat of that disaster. Meanwhile, the wine storage area is a strategic operation of its own. Amphorae of fine Falernian are set aside for the elite, while cheaper vintages wait for those too drunk to notice the difference. Subtle labels mark each vessel, a lesson learned from a past incident involving an angry consul with a sensitive palate and a penchant for fiery retaliation. Every detail matters when a single misstep could turn a feast into a fiasco. This isn't just cooking. It's crafting an experience meant to dazzle and intoxicate. Platters gleam as their polished sauces simmer to perfection. Meats are larded with precision, and pastry horns are stuffed with mysterious delights. The air crackles with tension as I weave through the chaos, sniffing, tasting, directing. A dropped dormouse could spell disaster, and the head cook's glare promises dire consequences for any such blunder. Yet amidst the frenzy there's a strange harmony, a shared understanding that this edible spectacle must survive, even if it's hurled across the room in a heated argument. Every sense is assaulted here, from the sizzle of roasting flesh to the sweet tang of honey and the acrid bite of garum. The kitchen staff, a mix of slaves and hired hands, move with a practiced urgency, their faces etched with the stress of pleasing Rome's most decadent elite. A single bad oyster or a poorly timed dish could turn whispers of praise into murmurs of poison in the forum by morning. The stakes are as high as the piles of fruit on display. This culinary storm is the backbone of tonight's excess, a foundation that must hold under the weight of indulgence and scandal. As I nod to the cook, his gruff assurance that all is well ringing in my ears, I can't help but marvel at the absurdity of it all. But there's no time to linger. The aroma of luxury must extend beyond taste, weaving into the very air itself, setting the stage for the next layer of opulence that will envelop our guests. Scent holds a power beyond mere fragrance in ancient Rome. It's a declaration of wealth, a whisper of seduction, a silent orchestrator of mood at an elite orgy. Every breath a guest takes tonight must be saturated with opulence, so they feel the extravagance before they even taste the wine or glimpse the dancers. Crafting this aromatic symphony falls to me the planner as I descend into the storage chamber, surrounded by alabaster jars of precious oils, each a relic of indulgence. Myrrh from Arabia, sharp citrus from distant groves, saffron from Cilicia, and a daring blend dubbed essence of Nile lotus, carrying the mystique of an exotic shore. Each vial is sniffed twice, evaluated with precision, because a single wrong note could disrupt the entire evening's allure. Composing this fragrance strategy mirrors plotting a military campaign. The atrium where guests first arrive demands a crisp opening citrus blended with cedarwood, bright and invigorating, a signal of the luxury to come. It primes their senses, setting expectations sky high. In the main triclinium where feasting and revelry peak, heavier tones take over. Myrrh, frankincense with a daring hint of musk, weaves an atmosphere that murmurs, "Mistakes are welcome here." It's deliberate, designed to loosen inhibitions under the flicker of oil lamps. Then the private garden alcoves, where secrets unfold and togas slip, call for pure temptation, rose cinnamon, and a trace of spikenard so potent it could overwhelm if not balanced with care. These secluded spaces must smell of forbidden possibility. Even the practical details carry weight. Perfumed oils for guests' hands and feet are prepared, warmed slightly by an attendant, because cold oil screams barbarism. Warmth suggests seduction, enhanced by the soft glow of evening light. The latrines too receive discreet attention, scented with restraint to mask necessity with dignity. No guest should wrinkle their nose in disdain, not even in the most private corners of his. Instructions to the staff are clear and firm. Avoid over-scenting at all costs. Luxury should envelop, not suffocate. If a senator stumbles out blaming a nosebleed on the aroma, we've crossed a dangerous line. Balance is everything in this game of noses. A dancer approaches with a special request, craving a personal scent, something hypnotic to ensnare attention. I hand her a blend so intense it once sparked a minor riot at a Saturnalia feast. Her smile, sharp and knowing, tells me she'll wield it regardless of my warning. It's a risk, but calculated her allure could elevate the night's energy. Walking through the halls, I trail my senses like a hound testing the air. A perfumed breeze wafts through the triclinium, warm and spiced, a promise of decadence. It's blooming into something tangible, a backdrop as critical as the food or music. This is indulgence made breathable, a silent spell cast over every guest. Yet even as the house transforms into an aromatic masterpiece, I know scent alone won't hold the chaos at bay. It's merely the first layer of tonight's intricate performance, a foundation for the controlled madness about to unfold. Every jar, every note has been chosen to weave an invisible thread through the evening, binding guests to the experience. The citrus in the atrium sharpens their anticipation. The myrrh in the dining hall deepens their surrender. The rose in the garden tempts their recklessness, but will it be enough when the wine flows and inhibitions shatter? The house stands ready, scented, lit, and armed with aroma, awaiting the first wave of guests. All it needs now is the spark of their arrival to ignite the true storm of the night. Late afternoon casts a golden haze over the villa, and the air hums with the scent of warm citrus-roasted meats and decisions that cost more than a soldier's yearly wage. Every task is assigned, every threat delivered, every harpist bribed to stay sober until at least dessert. Now, the moment of truth arrives, the final walkthrough. Starting at the entrance, oil lamps flicker to life, their glow dancing on polished marble, whispering to all who enter, "You're not poor, not tonight." A flower boy scatters fresh petals at the threshold, and I remind him to keep it light. Last time someone slipped on lavender and slid straight into the atrium. Bronze fountains bubble softly, grapes are stacked in absurdly impractical pyramids, and pillows are fluffed to unnatural symmetry. I nudge one slightly askew. Decadence must feel effortless, even if it took 32 hours and 2 breakdowns to achieve. Moving to the triclinium, the heart of tonight's excess tables sit low recliners angled just right. Each cushion is dusted, perfumed, and rotated to hide wine stains from last month's senatorial disaster. I press down for a bounce test, soft enough for comfort, firm enough to endure whatever unfolds. Silver goblets gleam, bronze platters shine, and blown glass amphorae catch the light. Bread is artfully arranged. Cheese sweats just enough for authenticity, and I discreetly remove a beetle from a fig. No one saw. It didn't happen. In the garden, alcove's lighting is dim, flattering, yet safe, avoiding mishaps with potted plants and dignity. Incense wafts, ethereal and perfect. I pause, allowing myself a fleeting moment to savor it, then spot a flower out of place. I fix it. A curtain hangs unevenly. I adjust it. One last deep breath, walking the space as a guest would. It's beautiful, ridiculous, excessive, perfect. For a heartbeat, I dare to believe it's under control. Then, a servant rushes in, breathless. The guest of honor arrived early, with 3 extra wives in tow. Naturally, I tighten my smile, straighten my tunic, and step into the chaos. The first knock isn't a knock. It's a dramatic thump, followed by laughter. I brace myself. Here we go. The door swings open, a slave pulling back the curtain with just enough flourish to impress without overshadowing. Lucius Calpurnius Piso strides in, as if he owns the place, though he hasn't paid a denarius for it. He reeks of strong wine ambition and cologne pricier than a legionnaire's armor. With a grin and a wink, he declares, "Tonight, my friend, we make Bacchus blush." Trailing behind a gaggle of courtesans, a minor poet, and a man with a small lyre who might not be invited. I don't check. Let it ride. Guests flood in draped in flowing robes, gold-threaded tunics, and embroidered sandals, their faces etched with practiced boredom. They've arrived early to prove their importance, each having sipped at least 1 drink to feign relaxation. I recalibrate the wine rations mentally. A slave offers perfumed towels, another presents rose water. One guest scoffs at both, demanding something more Dionysian. I hand him spiced wine. He calls it intellectual. I don't argue. The garden fills with murmurs, introductions, and hushed judgments louder than open chatter. Someone already asks for the flute girls. Another eyes the fruit pile like it owes them a debt. I keep moving, nodding, adjusting on the fly. 2 senators, estranged since the infamous goat insult, are separated before sparks fly. Governor Crispus reclines too close to someone else's wife, while poets gather in a corner like brewing storm clouds. A dancer strays into view too soon. I snap my fingers, not yet. Timing is everything. Start too early, and the mystery fades. Start too late, and complaints erupt. I aim for suspense, for smoldering scandal. Passing a tray, I pluck a grape discreetly and keep walking. One guest snores on a cushion already. Another polishes a dagger with butter. So far, so good. For a Roman orgy, controlled chaos is the highest praise. I glide through, ready for the night to unfold its next act. Picture this: the triclinium is alive with the hum of anticipation as oil lamps cast a warm golden glow over silk-draped couches. The air is thick with the scent of myrrh and roasted peacock, and the first notes of a flute spiral upward, delicate and haunting. The entertainment begins right now, with dancers stepping forward, their golden veils shimmering like liquid sunlight, anklets chiming with every graceful move. Their performance is pure theater, a hypnotic blend of elegance and sensuality that makes even the most stoic senator lean forward entranced. For a fleeting moment, the feast finds its rhythm. Conversations hush, goblets pause mid-air, and the room seems to breathe as one. It's a rare, perfect harmony in a night destined for chaos. But perfection in ancient Rome is a fragile thing, and chaos is never far behind. Barely a few steps into the dance, the script unravels. A guest emboldened by Falernian wine calls out for a reenactment of Leda and the Swan, his voice booming over the music. Another counters, with a demand for Orpheus in the underworld, insisting on real torches for dramatic effect. A third slurring slightly suggests an absurd tableau involving naked gladiators, a water jug, and interpretive juggling. Their requests clash like swords in the arena, each more outlandish than the last. I flash a practiced smile, murmuring assurances that everything is under control, even as my mind races to keep the night from spiraling into madness. These are not mere whims. They're tests of my ability to orchestrate this decadence without losing the plot. Then, as if on cue, the mime twins explicitly told to wait until the third wine course splunder into the center of the room. They launch into an exaggerated scene of seduction, one clutching a fig, the other a sausage. Their gestures comically lewd. Half the guests erupt in laughter, the sound rolling through the hall like thunder. The other half squints in confusion, unsure if this is art or insult. One man, a minor magistrate, applauds with the fervor of a theater patron, utterly convinced this is genius. I suppress a groan, resisting the urge to drown my frustration in the nearest amphora. The dancers press on their movements, unwavering, while the musicians struggle to match the mime's erratic tempo. The harpist, sensing the discord, veers into a mournful tune, likely mourning her own off-key notes. Suddenly a peach arcs through the air, lobbed by a guest with more wine than aim. It smacks against a pillar, and before I can react, a fig flies in retaliation. What starts as an accident becomes a game fruit sailing back and forth, as if this were a battlefield of produce. My heart sinks. Throwable fruit is a planner's nightmare. But I step forward, raising a hand with the gravitas of a high priest, a symbolic offering to Bacchus. I declare, my voice cutting through the din. The guests cheer instantly, buying the improvisation, their laughter turning the near disaster into a triumph. I make a mental note. Never again will fruit be within arm's reach. Crisis averted, but the night is young, and the undercurrent of chaos remain. The entertainment surges forward despite the hiccups. A flame dancer weaves dangerously close to the pool, her torches flickering with reckless beauty. A flute girl stumbles, catching herself just before a fall, her cheeks flushing under coal-lined eyes. Nearby, a guest deep in his cups proposes marriage to a marble statue of Venus, whispering sweet nothings as if it might reply. It's absurd, yet somehow fitting for this perfumed theatrical madness. I glide through the shadows, the unseen conductor of this bizarre symphony. A lamp needs adjusting done. A server hesitates with a tray. I nod him onward. Every move is calculated to maintain the illusion that this chaos is intentional, that I'm not just wrangling moods and figs, but crafting an unforgettable night. This is my domain, where every mishap is a chance to shine. Orgy planner, stage manager, diplomat of decadence. I'm all of these at once. As the music swells and whispers of scandal begin to ripple through the crowd, I sense the evening shifting towards something wilder. The wine flows freer, the laughter grows bolder, and the boundaries of propriety blur. What started as controlled spectacle is inching towards something untamed, and I'm ready to steer it, knowing the real scandals are yet to unfold under the flickering lamplight. By the third course, the wine flows like a river through the triclinium, and the guests, sprawled across silk cushions, transform into something closer to tipsy deities. Laughter erupts too loudly, flirtations grow brazen, and basic details like who arrived with whom slip from a memory. As the orgy planner, your role sharpens now. You've already signaled the servers to dilute the potent Falernian for the ambitious types. One unwatered amphora can turn a senator into a poet, or a tax evader in a single gulp. For the hopeless, though you let the wine stay pure, it's a calculated diplomacy served by the jug. Conversations shift from lofty philosophy to raw personal confessions. A young patrician bellows about his wealth, rivaling Jupiter's, while a merchant boasts of 3 villas and a camel. Nearby, a woman in pearls whispers a scandalous jest about the emperor's feet. You glide past, feigning deafness. If she's exiled tomorrow, you'll miss her knack for seating arrangements. In a shadowed corner, a poet attempts to woo a philosopher with verses that sound suspiciously stolen. Your eyes are like olives, dark and briny, he croons. You don't interfere. Some disasters must unfold naturally. Across the hall, 2 courtesans wage a silent war of compliments, each smile a sharpened blade, each laugh dripping with calculated venom. One offers the other a fig, a gesture loaded with unspoken malice. You make a swift mental note. Remove all figs before dessert. No fruit-related bloodshed tonight. Meanwhile, in the back, a drinking game centered on gladiator trivia spirals into chaos. Name 3 famous duels or drink, someone roars. A minor senator fumbles his answer, gets booed, downs his goblet, and slumps into a pillow, murmuring, Virgil. It's almost poetic, if not for the drool. Out in the garden alcove, a guest delivers a slurred speech about the logistics of cleaning marble fountains with a seize. No one interrupts. It's practically tradition at this point. The wine amphorae keep opening, promises spilling out with every pour. Cups never empty. Boundaries blur. Names vanish into the perfumed haze. The true orgy, the unscripted madness, edges closer. You monitor the pulse of the room like a general on a battlefield, dimming oil lamps to soften the mood, slowing the music to delay inevitable scandals. A guest reaches for a vial of perfume, mistaking it for wine. You intercept with a subtle hand, averting disaster. As the night deepens, the party morphs from decadent structure to mythological nonsense. Guests abandon names, calling each other Apollo or Venus or simply that peacock fellow. Someone crafts a laurel wreath from table herbs, wearing it with unearned triumph. In the fountain, 3 figures splash about when seemingly attempting a bizarre baptism. You choose not to investigate. This is the tipping point, where its most toasts would crumble, but you sip your own watered wine and shift into quiet damage control. A mock gladiator wrestling match nears the delicate mosaic of Neptune. With a tray of dates as bait, you redirect them, coaxing them away like distracted children. Two missing guests turn up under a table, debating stoicism while massaging each other's feet. A discreet cough from you, and they pretend to search for a lost bracelet. In the west alcove, a flute girl weep after a guest's metaphor about her untuned instrument cuts too deep. You dispatch a backup lyre player and a handful of pomegranate seeds. She rallies. Then, in the atrium, a burly man whispers sweet nothings to a marble bust of Venus feeding it olives. You send a servant to rotate the statue away, avoiding a scene. He takes it as a challenge, launching into love poetry. You permit it better than his earlier rant on grain tariffs. A torch topples. You catch it before it ignites a tapestry unflinching, unshaken. You are the calm eye in this storm of satin grapes and moral ambiguity. A guest prepares to hurl a goblet, a raised brow from you, and he lowers it. He knows better. This is your craft taming chaos just enough to keep the night alive, but a faint rumble echoes from the hallway. Someone's riding a wine cart. You take another sip. Dawn is near, and with it, the aftermath awaits. Dawn pierces the villa with a harsh, unapologetic light, revealing the wreckage of last night's excess. Marble floors glisten with spilled wine. Overturned goblets lie scattered like fallen soldiers, and a lone sandal dangles from a fruit bowl as if mocking the chaos. A nobleman snores face down in a decorative urn oblivious to the world, while the last oil lamps flicker out their faint smoke, mixing with a lingering scent of regret. You tread carefully over a passed-out flute player, her instrument still clutched like a lifeline, and begin the grim task of damage assessment. Cushions are askew togas, drape over statues in ways that blur the line between art and evidence, and a philosophical limerick scrawled in wine on the wall offers surprising insight despite its lack of rhyme. You pause, taking in the sheer scale of the mess, a triumph, a disaster, a diplomatic nightmare garnished with grapes. The slaves move with practiced silence, initiating the post-orgy cleanup ritual. Wine-stained linens are bundled away, half-eaten peacock carcasses carted off, and incense ashes swept into neat piles. You issue instructions in a hushed tone, as if speaking too loudly might rouse the deeper chaos still sleeping under the tables. Someone groans from beneath a couch, a pitiful sound of consequence catching up. You acknowledge it with a nod, but offer no aid. Everyone must face their own aftermath. Checking the guest list, you confirm the tally. No deaths, 1 sprained ankle, 2 spontaneous marriages, and a cryptic note from a departing philosopher that reads, "Thank you. I've learned things I must never speak of." A small victory considering the potential for disaster. In the garden doves from last night's pig-burst performance wander aimlessly, dazed by their theatrical ordeal. You herd them gently into a corner, tossing leftover candied almonds their way. They've earned something sweet after surviving such a spectacle. The triclinium reveals another oddity, a pile of olives arranged into a crude likeness of the emperor. For a fleeting moment, you consider preserving it as a bizarre memento, then kick it under the table with a sigh. Some things are better left unseen. The air still carries traces of myrrh and spilled Falernian, a reminder of the opulence that fueled this madness, now reduced to debris and faint echoes of laughter. You compile a debrief list, mental notes etched with the weight of hard-learned lessons. Never serve throwable fruit again. Those peaches and figs turned into weapons faster than you could intervene. Live poetry battles near open flames. A mistake you won't repeat after last night's near catastrophe. The Venus statue must be kept in storage for future events. Its allure proved too tempting for one overly enthusiastic guest. And Senator Crispus needs to be seated far from anyone with legal representation. His flirtations nearly sparked a courtroom drama amidst the wine. Each point is a scar on your planner's soul, a reminder of how close you danced to total ruin. Stepping back, you survey the villa one last time. It was a mess, yes, but also a success in its warped Roman way. You absorbed the chaos so the guests never saw it, weaving through scandals and mishaps with the grace of a high priest of excess. No applause awaits you, no grand recognition, just the quiet satisfaction of survival. Retreating to your room, you kick off your sandals and collapse onto your mat, exhaustion claiming you before pure pride can. Tomorrow, the guests will spin tales of a flawless night, oblivious to the sweat and near screams behind it. For now, sleep is your only reward. Yet, as your eyes close, a broader thought lingers. This excess, this orchestrated debauchery mirrors something larger, a culture of indulgence that defines Rome itself. How does such a society built on spectacle and power compare to others shaped by struggle or resilience across history? The question hangs unanswered as the villa falls silent behind you. The chaos of a Roman orgy, with its spilled wine and whispered scandals, reveals more than just decadence. It exposes the intricate web of power status and human desire that defined an empire. Every overturned goblet and misplaced toga in the aftermath tells a story of a society obsessed with excess, where even the most intimate gatherings were stages for political games. But Rome's story, vivid as it is, represents only a fragment of humanity's vast tapestry. Beyond the marble halls and perfumed gardens, other histories unfold equally compelling, equally human, yet shaped by entirely different forces. Consider the stark contrast of the 1930s Dust Bowl migration in America, where families faced not indulgence, but desolation. The land itself turned traitor as wind and drought stripped away livelihoods in Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas. Black storms swallowed entire towns, forcing thousands to flee west on a desperate journey along Route 66. Unlike the orchestrated chaos of a Roman feast, this was raw survival mattresses tied to rickety fords, children coughing dust and dreams buried under sand. Yet, in their struggle, these migrants mirrored a resilience that echoes across time. Their exodus wasn't just a flight from disaster, It was a defiant push toward hope, a refusal to be broken by nature's wrath. California offered no golden welcome, only crowded camps and scorn, but their endurance laid the groundwork for cultural shifts from Woody Guthrie's haunting ballads to labor movements that reshaped the West. This grit born of hardship parallels the Roman planners' mastery over chaos, though the stakes were survival, not spectacle. Both stories, though, separated by centuries and continents, highlight a universal truth. Humanity thrives through adaptation, whether navigating social minefields or literal dust storms. The Dust Bowl narrative isn't merely a historical footnote. It's a testament to how crises forge identity, much like Rome's excesses defined its elite. These migrants carried their pain into song and story, preserving their legacy not in stone, but in memory, a theme that resonates far beyond any single era. Their voices, raw with loss and determination, connect to a deeper thread of human experience, one that stretches across cultures and ages. From the orchestrated decadence of Rome to the unscripted suffering of the American Plains history reveals itself through the ways we endure and remember. This impulse to preserve, to pass down what matters most ties directly into the power of spoken word and oral tradition. How did societies without written records hold on to their past? How did they ensure their lessons survived? The answer lies in the voices that carried knowledge long before ink touched parchment, a practice that still binds us to our roots today. Imagine a world where knowledge isn't locked in books or digital files, but carried solely in the human voice. For most of human history, this was reality. Oral traditions formed the backbone of civilization, preserving everything from creation myths to survival skills through stories, songs, and spoken rituals. These weren't mere tales for amusement. They were sacred duties ensuring identity, law, and wisdom survived across generations. Memory became a living archive, stitching time together with every word spoken. In West Africa, this power lives through griots, revered figures among the Mande peoples, part historian, part musician, part diplomat. Griots are walking libraries reciting centuries of lineage, wars, and treaties with precision. Trained from childhood, they master thousands of verses, often advising rulers with historical precedent. Their voice holds communities together, proving memory endures even against colonial erasure. Across the vast Pacific, Polynesian wayfinders navigated thousands of miles without maps or compasses. Their oral tradition encoded star paths, ocean swells, and ancestral voyages in chants and songs. A mental star compass memorized through rigorous training turned the horizon into a guide. These stories weren't just navigation aids. They were identity linking each journey to the past. Even today, this knowledge is revived, showing memory can still chart a course. In ancient Greece, bards like Homer wielded oral tradition as cultural glue. The Iliad and Odyssey, spanning thousands of tales, were performed aloud, memorized with formulaic phrases like swift-footed Achilles as memory aids. Each recitation adapted to the audience, keeping epic tales of honor and fate alive. These performances weren't just stories. They shaped Greek values, binding communities through shared heritage long before writing captured them. Indigenous North American cultures also thrived on spoken word. From the Haudenosaunee to the Navajo oral traditions preserved history's laws and ecological knowledge. Elders recounted creation stories and practical skills like fire ecology during winter gatherings, ensuring accuracy with sacred patterns. Despite colonial disruption, many communities today sustain these narratives, safeguarding memory through voice. Religious traditions, too, began with speech. Hinduism's Vedas were chanted by priests for centuries before being written, each syllable carrying cosmic weight. Islam's Quran lives through melodic recitation, connecting believers across time. Early Christianity spread through spoken parables, while Judaism's Mishnah relied on oral chains of transmission. In every faith, the divine resonates in sound, not just text. Storytellers stand at the heart of this legacy. More than narrators, they are guardians trained to recall with precision, yet adapt with flair. Whether a West African griot with a kora or a Japanese rakugo performer with a fan, their art turns memory into experience. Audiences aren't passive. They engage, laugh, and learn, making each telling a communal act. A story might encode a desert route or a moral lesson, its depth unfolding over time. Far from fading, oral tradition evolves in our digital age. Podcasts and viral videos become modern campfires, while indigenous communities record elders to preserve endangered languages. Yet a question lingers: can a digital file hold the same living energy as a spoken tale? As we explore broader historical lessons, this balance between past and future remains vital to understanding who we are. The chaotic life of a Roman orgy planner reveals a world of excess, where every detail from wine to scandal was meticulously orchestrated. Beyond this, our journey through history shows resilience in the face of hardship, like the Dust Bowl migrants, and the enduring power of memory and oral traditions across cultures. These stories, spanning time and place, remind us that human strength and creativity persist no matter the challenge. Excess, struggle, and storytelling weave a timeless thread connecting us all. If this glimpse into the past resonated with you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe for more historical insights. Drop a comment below. Let us know where you're tuning in from and what time it is there. Your voice adds to this global conversation, linking past to present.